Good evening. Tonight, we continue with our focus on the emerging COVID battle that has now become a matter of huge concern. What we are going to do tonight, viewers, is break down the next 1 hour into the 5 crucial states. And we are going to get you a status as far as number of cases, amount of testing, key concerns, travel restrictions, additional restrictions and the crackdown by individual states. We're going to give you all of these details from the states that are currently in the spotlight because of a resurgence in cases or a sign of a resurgence. Now, we will also try and understand from our ground reporters as well as experts who join us for each of these states as to why this is going on. But frankly, in some of the states and cities, it's really quite clear, and you know the reason and I know the reason. It is because we have stopped following COVID norms. It is because we don't really care anymore. We have started to go out and behave as if everything is normal. Let me tell you, it isn't. And this reiteration is now again and again coming in from the government as well. Out of the active 1.5 lakh cases, 75 of these cases are in 2 states, Kerala and Maharashtra. But the centre has now sent teams to the states where they are seeing a rise in cases. They've also told us that yes, while there are certain cases, about 187 of the UK variant, there's also the South African variant and the Brazilian variant. There are also many Indian ones, and there are 2 specific ones which are currently under scrutiny. 2 new strains that have been found in Maharashtra, Telangana and Kerala. Now, it's still initial stages. Studies are going on. So far, the government says there is no correlation between the new strains and rise in cases. And if that is what we have to go with as of now, it only means that as we let down our guard, the cases are on the rise. Madhya Pradesh, Punjab have now become a concern. So let us try and understand what's going on. Before that, there's a quick comment coming in from the Health Ministry today.
केरल और महाराष्ट्र ये 2 राज्य 75% एक्टिव केसेस इन्हीं 2 राज्यों में हैं। मैंने आपको कहा था कि कुछ राज्य हैं जहां की हमने हाल में ही केंद्रीय टीमें भेजी हैं और कुछ जगह भेज रहे हैं। ये वो राज्य हैं जहां की प्रतिदिन आने वाले नए केसेस में हमने कुछ सर्ज देखी है। इसमें महाराष्ट्र है। ये महाराष्ट्र का ग्राफ हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं। जब आप इसमें आप देखेंगे कि प्रतिदिन आने वाले केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं। उसी तरीके से केरल में हालांकि इंक्रीमेंटल डिक्लाइन है, लेकिन एब्सोल्यूट नंबर्स में केरल में अभी भी प्रतिदिन आने वाले केसेस की मात्रा अधिक है, इसलिए केरल भी हमारे लिए चिंता का विषय है। पंजाब में आप देखेंगे कि प्रतिदिन आने वाले नए केस लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं, तो इसलिए पंजाब चिंता का विषय है।
So let's first begin with the state of Maharashtra. State of Maharashtra with the maximum number of active cases in our country today, with a very high daily number of cases being registered. Let's look into the state. And I say good evening to Dr. Sanjay Pujari, Director of Institute of Infectious Diseases in Pune. He's a member of the National Task Force joining us this evening. But before I go to Dr. Pujari, I want to get an on-ground report from Disha. Disha, let's first, talk about what's going on in our cities. The fact that people are not following rules, restaurants are being given notices, banquet halls are being given notices. We even have a case of a politician organizing a large-scale event.
Well, certainly, Tanvi. First, if we talk about numbers here, particularly across the state, there are about 53,000 active cases, and this figure has increased in the last 2 weeks. Compared to a fortnight ago, the active cases were hardly about 30 to 35,000 in Maharashtra. Out of this, there are about 7,500 active cases in Mumbai alone, which is highest in the entire state. And if you talk about Mumbai, a fortnight ago, it was anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000. So you're looking at this surge, particularly in the last 2 weeks. talking about certain measures, certain precautions. Here, of course, like you rightly pointed out, on ground, the situation is such that people have forgotten what is COVID like. And as you can see, of course, here, people have stopped wearing masks. These are the visuals that we are showing you. It's a public road. You can see even inside shops as well, we can see people not really wearing masks. And we visit these shops daily just to buy some or the other stuff outside the food joint as well. And these sort of violations are really leading to a surge every now and then, specifically in a crowded places like these. In terms of course, keeping in mind, Tanvi, the surge in the cases, today the Maharashtra Chief Minister took a review meeting with all the civic heads of the districts possible, and he also alerted them that keeping in mind the cases, that how they are increasing, because today the positivity rate stands at about 9% compared to what we saw a fortnight ago, which was 5%. So they have to be on high alert. They have to reopen the quarantine centers. They have to reopen the isolation centers. They have to extend the 80% reservation beds for COVID patients, specifically in private hospitals. They also have to ensure the ICU beds, more of them are made available, even oxygen beds for that matter. So possibility we could see a second wave. And that is what, the Maharashtra Chief Minister reiterated on his Sunday speech as well, that it is on us. If we do not want another lockdown, if we want to avoid the second wave, the responsibility is on us. And today, perhaps that meeting was taking place, a sort of a review between all the civic chiefs.
Yes, and what is interesting is, for example, Disha, we were given to understand that we're looking at the possibility and the option of opening up our jumbo COVID centers that had obviously been shut down because there was no requirement for this. Tougher penalties for people stepping out. Where all are the authorities cracking down? What should we be careful about, even in terms of travel?
Well, certainly, if you just talk about Mumbai particularly and across the state, there's a fine of 200 rupees if you're stepping out without a mask. One such, of course, we showed you visuals around here, Tanvi, that how few of the people are seen without mask. And if at all, if you're caught without a mask, then you have to pay a fine of 200 rupees. And if you talk particularly about Mumbai, Tanvi, then in the last, ever since the pandemic has hit the city, till date, 32 crore rupees fine have been collected by the BMC from at least 15 lakh people. So, and this of course is continuing as we speak. As far as for the wedding halls, for the banquet halls, for the restaurants and pubs, if at all, if they fail to actually, keep up the COVID rules and beyond 50% capacity, then they firstly FIRs will be filed against them, and they also have to pay fine of 10,000 rupees. So all of these are the details that people have to keep in mind. And if at all, if you're traveling in your private car, because that order was just modified yesterday, so it is important for the citizens to know that if you're traveling in your own private car, then everyone has to wear a mask if there's more than one person traveling. But if you're a lone traveler in your private car, you can be maskless. So all of these are the certain precautions, strict guidelines that the civic bodies individually is putting into place, looking at the COVID numbers in their respective areas.
Yes, and a lot of volunteers, a lot of policemen now on ground, civic body officials on ground, warning people, sending the message across. Those are the kind of steps that are being taken. Disha, thanks so much for joining us and bringing us those updates as far as Maharashtra is concerned. One of the big concern areas, apart from Kerala, it is the state of Maharashtra, and between them, honestly, we're taking almost 2/3 of the burden of the entire country, which is why it is a big concern. Now, Dr. Sanjay Pujari, good evening to you. Your own view of what may have changed just in the last 1 month. The spike that we're seeing in February, most of the restrictions had already been lifted, say even in December or January.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. The causes for a surge like this is actually multifactorial. So you have had a gradual unlockdown, and as you went through a process of unlockdown, you had more indoor activities, things like gyms, restaurants, bars, cinema halls getting opened up. And this is also coupled with individuals' human behavior getting lenient. So people were not following COVID appropriate behavior, and it has been emphasized enough: physical distancing, masking, and hand hygiene. So coupled with both of this, you see that there has been a surge which happened. Now remember, globally, and this is also what is seen in India, is that you don't immediately see a surge happening at a population level immediately after unlockdown. So the virus needs some time to get transmitted from one individual to other, and then there is a gradual increase to a level where the population dynamics, the infection happens at a large population level, and then you start seeing a surge in the infection. So it typically takes about 2 to 3 months from complete unlockdown to people not following COVID appropriate behavior, leading to a surge, which we are classically seeing now. So unlockdown happened around November, December, and in about 2 to 3 months, you are seeing a surge in the population level. In addition, this is coupled with not a very strong evidence, but emergence of strains which may be more efficiently transmitted. And at our practice today, for example, in Pune, we certainly see high secondary attack rates in households. So in the first wave, we did not see all the members of a family getting infected if one individual was infected, but now we are seeing a significant proportion of family members getting infected. So there may be perhaps increased transmissibility associated with these strains. Of course, this is still some further scientific evidence needed to prove this, but this is also something which may also flare up or cause an increased surge in this context. But one positive thing that we have seen up till now also, that we do not see as much high mortality. Now, there may be many issues associated with it. Maybe that the virus is more easily transmissible, and that's actually the penalty in the evolutionary biology of viruses, is that, if you are more transmissible, you become less lethal. Hopefully, if that is true, then this is something which may be useful as a positive message. And of course, since we treated in the first phase, we are better equipped now to treat these patients, and that may also contribute to a lower case fatality rate.
So if I'm getting this right, you're saying that there is a possibility that and of course, because the virus and any virus constantly tries to evolve, and it's constantly evolving to ensure that it remains and survives and thrives. And in that process, while it may have adopted some skills to transfer more easily, but it's possibly become less fatal.
So there are known examples for this across different viruses. So it's simple. Like if a virus gets transmitted and if it kills somebody, it further cannot transmit. So it has to keep that individual alive to further transmit itself. That's like a survival advantage for the virus. So this is very preliminary. But if you see strains like UK, South Africa, and even Brazil, the case fatality rate associated with those strains has not been very, very high, really.
All right. So let me ask you this, Dr. Pujari. At this point, what should the state governments, especially in such states like Maharashtra or Kerala and some of the others that have now begun to see the rise, what should their policy be? Because it just looks like people have begun to behave in a manner as if COVID is gone.
So it's not entirely up to the government. It's community which should get involved and get serious about this issue. And I need to emphasize that it's government alone responding is not going to really be a complete response. So the community has to get involved. From the government, of course, the basic principles of how you control the epidemic. And we have an example. We controlled the epidemic in our first wave. We saw that people diligently following precautions led to a decline in infection. So there is an example here to even within our country to suggest that if we follow precautions, we may be able to further cause a decline in this new surge that we are seeing. From the government, of course, the simple principles are test, isolate, trace, and treat. So you need to heighten surveillance. You need to perhaps even try to heighten genomic surveillance to find if there are circulating strains of new variants. But again, new variants are what? I mean, even if they are transmissible, your non-pharmacological interventions or COVID-appropriate behaviors are not going to change. So essentially, you need to use mask even against the new variants. So identifying them for the epidemiological purposes, making micro-containment lockdowns maybe at small areas so that you can prolong the peak of the wave as we did at the national level in the first wave of this epidemic, and of course trying to accelerate vaccination as well. So this is something which needs to be done on a war footing, and I personally believe that the private sector need to be involved to really and I've told this to your channel in my first interview, I remember,
Yes.
that you need to the private sector to increase the response, and vaccination is where private sector can really help in a big way.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit more on this, because this question was even raised with the government today. And, you know, you've been on our shows. We've been constantly now, at least for the last 3 weeks, been asking this question, why are we not speeding up and how we can? The government says, well, the private sector is already involved. Many of the current vaccination centers are already in private hospitals. So when you say that let's involve them a little bit more, what is it that we are asking the government to do?
So certainly the private sector is currently involved. The target group are the frontline workers. And what you usually are seeing now are only the big hospitals which are involved. But India is not just big hospitals. There are a lot of small nursing homes. There are a lot of other kind of semi-small hospitals which can also significantly contribute to this drive. So particularly you don't see these big hospitals in semi-urban and rural areas. So we need to involve them, train them, involve them in trying to administer this vaccine, look for immediate side effects of the vaccine. And I think it is possible. It can be done by involving more of these, not so big hospitals, but many of these small hospitals in this drive.
All right, Dr. Pujari, thank you so much for joining us and really, shedding the light on what's happening in our country, especially in the state of Maharashtra. And really, I think we speak with so many experts now on a daily basis, and almost everybody is in agreement and unanimously saying two things to us. One, that the citizens need to show some precautions. The citizens need to follow some rules. And actually, when I say citizens, and I genuinely, all experts mean everybody, including big leaders. There was an instance in Maharashtra today where an ex-minister who's not been, in public limelight for 10 days because of a controversy that he got caught up in, today popped up to go visit a temple. And look at what happened there. Look at the kind of crowd that had gathered at this incident. The Chief Minister has now asked for a report from the Washim DM on what really went on. But these are exactly the things that should not be happening. Definitely not in a state like Maharashtra. We cannot afford, and the leaders must lead with example rather than creating such crowded, chaotic events. Now, from Maharashtra, let's shift focus to the other big state, and that's the state of Kerala, which is also, like Maharashtra, seen a steady rise in cases until yesterday. So too early to say if Kerala is now beginning to get a handle, but yes, if you look at the cases, 5,281 on February 11th, 5,471 on February 13th, 5,612 on February 17th, and after that, it's now begun to taper to 4,000 on February 21st. Yet, between Maharashtra and Kerala, they have 2/3 of India's full or total cases. Now, Ernakulam within Kerala is one problem area. That's one of the districts where we're seeing maximum number of cases, about 9,352 cases just from this. Kollam and Kozhikode are the other districts, Kottayam, the other one, all these in the range of 4,000, 4,200 cases each. Now, Kerala has stepped up on its testing. They have also demanded from the center to help them push up vaccination. So they get the point that while they crack down, ensure people follow the norms, punish the violators, it is also important to push up your vaccination drive. which is what Kerala is now seeking from the centre. They've also taken, measures to say after 10 p.m. people with only urgent reasons will be allowed to travel. A large number of police personnel have been deployed for surveillance. Their daily testing rate has been hiked to about 1 lakh. So these are the kind of steps that are being taken in Kerala. A higher surveillance, a higher testing rate. Genome sequencing is being done, a genome study is being done to find out if there is a special variant. Like I told you, there are some new variants that have been detected in our country, but as of now, there is no link to suggest that they are the causes for a faster rise in cases. Strict vigil at airports and borders. On paper, we've been told that there is a strict vigil that will be implemented as far as people movement is concerned. But let's try and understand. Dr. Anish T.S., Associate Professor for Community Medicine at the Government Medical College in Tipuram. He is also a part of the COVID-19 expert panel for Government of Kerala is joining us. Dr. Anish, help us understand. We just had a discussion on Maharashtra. Kerala is the other state that's seen some rise in cases, a larger share of it. Why is this happening?
Good evening. Actually, when we are discussing these things, we have to look at different states. When we are speaking about numbers, sometimes it is very difficult to compare because the numbers means the ability of the state to report. Suppose a state has got 10,000 cases, sometimes only 100 cases will be reported. In another states, for the 10,000 cases, maybe 5,000 cases may be reported. So the reporting capacity of the state is actually very, very important. So whenever we are just looking at data, we have to look at a data which is universal to every state. I'm actually quoting the seroprevalence survey data of ICMR, which shows, India has got a seroprevalence of 21% by December 2020. That means 1/5 of the total population in India is already affected. There is a documented evidence. Maybe the real picture may be more than that. But in Kerala, it is just about 10%. If the same seroprevalence data says Kerala has got the minimum seroprevalence rate somewhere around less than 15%. But you look at the neighboring states of Kerala, like Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, you will see that it is more than double that of Kerala. But when you look at the reported number of cases, in Kerala, we have already reported more than 1 million cases of COVID so far. But in Tamil Nadu, it is only 0.8 million. You have to mind that Tamil Nadu is a state just for double the population size of Kerala. So we actually were trying to slow down the epidemic. We were trying to flatten the curve. But because of that, we have got a lot of people, unaffected people are still here. So we are actually planning. What we want is to achieve the herd immunity. Maybe only 15% of our people are actually affected till now. But if you want to contain or if you want to slow down the epidemic, maybe 50% of our population may be affected. So the rest 35% we have to fill by vaccination. So just only by vaccination, rampant and widespread vaccination, we are only able to contain the epidemic. So 15% of population of Kerala is somewhere around 4 million. Out of the 4 million cases, 1 million cases are already reported by the state. That means 1 in 4. Yes, pardon?
No, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Okay, that actually Kerala has got a very good surveillance system and we are able to report more number of cases. If you look at the surveillance data of India, you will see that only 1 in 20 cases is reported in national level, but in Kerala, we are actually reporting more than 1 in 4 cases. So we have got a very good reporting capacity. Just that may be the reason that we have even now we have got very high number of cases.
No, but so something, Dr. Anish, if I may, something's obviously changed from a few months ago, even during the festival time, to say the first month of this year in January to now. Now, what seems to have changed if the surveillance and testing and implementation has been of a higher level?
Definitely, something has changed. And you may be knowing that Kerala is the state which reported the first case of COVID in India in January 2020 itself. And we were actually having a very low number of cases till August or September. But after that, Actually, we have got a very big surge of cases, and it has actually surged through. Maybe we have got 2 waves, and now the cases are coming down. And definitely, the people after, as you have said, after the festivals and all, people were actually moving around, and it is actually a fight which is long, more than 1 year. So it is very difficult for our people to keep inside their home. So that may be the reason that the number of cases are increased.
Okay.
But definitely, we are trying to increase the surveillance system. As you have already pointed out, our number of cases, we are trying to make it almost 1 lakh. So now it is almost 75,000. And if you look at the number of tests already performed, it is more than 40% of the state's population.
Yes.
Actually, the test is equal to 40% of the total population is already performed. And we are actually trying to test out the disease in every primary health centers, in every nook and corners of our state. So that may be the reason that we are finding out more cases.
Okay. Now, many have actually even spoken about the fact that when you open up the schools at such a time, and there have been, at least 2 or 3 instances where when tests were conducted in these schools, a large number of students and teachers were found to be positive. And the fact that you have a lot of travelers coming in from outside, especially from the Gulf region, has that added to the peculiarity of Kerala's problem?
Yes, definitely. Maybe that is one thing which is sharing Kerala and Maharashtra, that we have got a very high influx of people from different parts of the world. Kerala has got a very, very special group of people coming from Gulf countries. That is one thing. And when we are sustaining the fight against COVID, one problem that can happen, there is genetic variations that can happen. We have got a dedicated program. Maybe Kerala and Maharashtra is having a dedicated program to find out genetic variation. As you have already mentioned, schools are actually a very important concern for us, because as a part of reverse quarantine, to keep the vulnerable people inside their home, we were keeping our children inside their home, and the children are now very highly vulnerable for infection. Even if they don't have to go for maybe complications or some deaths, but they can infect people, and schools are becoming a hub for COVID spread. So we have actually reported a couple of cases where the schools were shut down because of rampant COVID spread. So it is a matter of concern that as we are moving to the new academic year, and when the children are going to school, as they are not exposed till now, there is actually a big chance that children may become an agent, or they may get infected from schools, and they can actually give the infection to the susceptible individuals in their homes. That is a very big concern for us. So our chief minister last day, he suggested that is there any program that could be conducted to immunize the school teachers, so
Yes.
that there will not be any super spreading in schools. So according to the central government's guideline, the school teachers are not considered as the frontline workers. And actually, the one matter that the state has actually argued that the school teachers should also be considered as frontline workers.
Okay, I think I agree with you now that the schools have opened partially, and these teachers have to step out. They must be considered as the frontline workers and given that preference. In fact, that brings me to my other question to you. The state of Kerala has also raised the issue of more vaccination and speedier vaccination. Is there a growing feeling, Dr. Anish, that the centers are ready, the staff is available, but we are still not able to give out more doses because not enough people are coming in?
That is not the issue, actually. The problem is centers are ready, we are able to give vaccination, but we cannot enroll people. So the COVID portal, it is not operated by the state. So we are not free to enter people inside COVID portal. It opens once in a while, and we will try to enter people, and it will be closed for weeks or days. And the problem is we cannot give, if you go by guidelines by the central government, we cannot give enough vaccination for our people. So that is the real issue. People are actually waiting for getting vaccinated, but the problem is we cannot enroll them, and we cannot give vaccines.
You're saying that even there are frontline warriors and healthcare workers specifically who are waiting but are not able to get it because the app has still too many glitches and it's not in your control? Dr.
We
Anish,
have got more than 3 lakhs healthcare workers. Yes.
sorry,
can
I
hear.
lost your voice in between. If you can
we
just
have
repeat
got,
that.
Okay, in Kerala, we have got more than 3 lakhs healthcare workers, and almost 95% of them are already vaccinated.
Okay.
And we have got more than 50,000 frontline workers, and more than 70% of them are actually vaccinated. My problem is, it is not related to healthcare workers and frontline workers.
Yeah.
We have to speed up the vaccination. We have to give vaccination for public, because as we know, in Kerala, the seroprevalence data suggested that in August, our seroprevalence rate was less than 1%. But in December, it is 14 or 15%. That means more than 10% rise in seroprevalence in 3 or 4 months. For 10% of Kerala population is somewhere around 4 million. That means 4 million. It is 4 lakhs. That means more than 10 lakhs individuals are getting disease, COVID-19 in a month. If you want to conquer the spread of disease using vaccination, the vaccination should be having that kind of a speed. Then only we can use vaccination as a strategy to reduce the spread of disease. The problem is the disease is affected. The thousands and lakhs of people are affected by the disease, and you are actually giving vaccination for hundreds. That will not work. So we cannot actually use vaccination, this kind of a vaccination, as a strategy to reduce the spread. If you want to use vaccination as a strategy to reduce COVID spread, you have to vaccinate your public. So we have to ramp up our vaccination strategy. That's simple.
All right, that's a very interesting point that you've made. And also, from the data, it does look like, at least as far as the first dose is concerned, you're almost done with your healthcare workers and even the frontline care workers. And so, it adds to the point that we've also been making, and the center must look at it very seriously, immediately, that we need to take our vaccination drive to the next level. We need to open it up to the next group, especially when states like Kerala are ready, the centers are ready, and we have the doses, but we're just not giving it to people who are willing to take it. Thank you so much, Dr. Anish, for joining us. Yes.
One more point. Can I?
Yes, please.
Another thing is, if the vaccine is available in open market, so many people are willing to pay and get the vaccination.
Right.
So government has to think in that line also. So government need not take all those things in their shoulders. Let's just let people buy and use. So that is another strategy change I want to suggest.
Right. Okay. Point well taken. Thank you so much for joining us with all of those insights and what's going on in Kerala and the way it is being tackled by the state government. Now, from Kerala, let's move on to its neighboring state of Karnataka. Now, Karnataka by itself, viewers, doesn't really have a big problem in terms of a surge in cases yet. But Karnataka's problem is a little unique, which is why it's part of our special broadcast today. It has Kerala and Maharashtra as its neighbors, and a large number of people traveling from these states to the state of Karnataka. In fact, that's become one of the biggest challenges for Karnataka right now, to track in these people. They set up, rules and restrictions in terms of testing everybody who's coming in from Kerala, not just via air, but even via road. And that's become a big challenge for authorities on ground. So their restrictions, and if you are traveling from one of these two states to Karnataka, then you please be very, very careful and well aware of the rules that you have to follow. So Karnataka has come in with a strict set of rules. Let's go across to Neha, in fact, who's joining us with those details. Neha, first let's talk about the travel curbs. If somebody is looking to travel to Karnataka, what should we be knowing?
Well, Tanvi, we'll break it down very simply. Now, there are just two options that travelers coming to Karnataka from Kerala and Maharashtra have. The first one being that they carry a COVID-19 negative certificate, either if they're traveling by bus, train, air, or even road for that matter. Or the second option is that if they're coming in without a COVID-19 negative certificate, and they'll have to come here, get tested at either the checkpost if they're coming by road or anywhere else, depending on the mode of transport that they're coming by. They'll have to stay in quarantine till till the time that the results come negative, following which, in fact, depending on whether they test positive or negative, the further protocol would follow. Now, if they do happen to test positive, then in that case, these travelers, would of course have to be quarantined till the time that they test negative twice with a gap of more than 24 hours. So, in fact, what we're actually seeing is the rules being made very stringent, and so much so that, Tanvi, like you were rightly talking about the implementation on ground becoming difficult, it was only yesterday, the first day of the order being implemented on the border, that we saw how people were, in fact, resisting, and we even saw commuters breaking out into protests demanding that, that this order be withdrawn.
Okay, so there's obviously been quite a bit of back and forth and fight really between the Karnataka government and the Kerala authorities as well on these rules, like you were pointing out. Now let's speak about Karnataka state's cases itself. What are the rules and regulations or restrictions that have been brought in there? Have they stepped up their testing? Have they stepped up their surveillance? Neha.
Well, Tanvi, funnily on paper, we're seeing the Karnataka government stating, several rules, several guidelines that need to be followed. But here at, a place that we're at, I'm just going to take it straight and show you. We're at the KR market, where you can see how all, norms are being flouted. Vendors are here without masks. Buyers over here, for that matter, customers over here are walking around without masks. There's no on-ground checking, that's being done either by the BBMP staff or by the police or by the BBMP marshals for that matter, and it's absolute chaos. And what's important right now, Tanvi, is to stress on what the new SOP or what the new guidelines have said. Now, while the SOPs, are of course particularly for hotels, for restaurants, for dhabas, and for other eateries as well, for the general common areas such as the markets, such as other areas as well, what we're seeing right now is that the government of the BBMP, the civic body for that matter, has mandated that large crowds should not get together. In fact, Tanvi, you can see a police car also passing by amidst this crowd, but clearly, there's no actual implementation of this order on ground. It's only on paper that we're seeing all of these rules being made. But having said that, we do see the BBMP marshals as well, through the day, they've been given targets to achieve of fining people with challans, and, failing which, of course, they could then be penalized for action. So, having said that, on ground, the situation of cases, particularly in Karnataka, isn't half as bad as Kerala or as Maharashtra. Just to give you a broad understanding, cases from Karnataka on a daily basis is barely about 10% of what Kerala or Maharashtra is seeing. But having said that, talking about Bengaluru, the capital city in particular, a cause of concern that's now, in fact, that's actually irked the civic body, Tanvi, is, in fact, the clusters that are emerging. We've seen as of now 2 big clusters that have come in from Bengaluru, and a possible third one as well is what we're seeing. So, having said that, of course, while on paper the order is very clear that there has to be sanitization, there has to be masking up of all those people who are, coming out and all of that. But on ground over here, the situation very, very different, Tanvi.
Yes, and that actually is the story in many parts, where on-ground situation is very different from the orders that are designed and created by officials sitting in the offices who think, for example, to tell the people and the small-time businesses, Neha, to ensure that their staff and restaurant staff is actually tested every 15 days becomes a very tricky thing to do. And who's going to ensure that it is being followed? How many checks are we going to do as far as these small eateries are concerned across the city or the state to follow that? But thanks so much for bringing us those updates, and we're going to keep running those details for our viewers. But let's get in an expert as well. Dr. Sudarshan Ballal, part of the expert committee, member for the Karnataka Health Vision Group and chairman of the Manipal Hospital, joins us this evening. Good evening, Dr. Ballal. Thank you for being with us. We were just telling our viewers that while for Karnataka, there isn't a big spike yet to be concerned about, but you have neighbors who are struggling a lot from Maharashtra to Kerala, which is why it's perhaps important to, step up on the vigil right away.
Good evening, Tanvi, and thank you for having me here. you put it very succinctly. Even though we haven't had a big spike in the cases yet, even though there have been some clusters, we cannot remain in isolation. If Kerala and Maharashtra have it, sooner or later Karnataka will get it, and we should be very, very vigilant in trying to prevent this surge, which means the fundamentals of COVID spreading is preventing COVID spread is masking, distancing, and hand washing. And COVID appropriate behavior is something that the government should implement with all rigor, in addition to speeding up the vaccination. This is the only way we can fight COVID, and it's impossible to segregate people from different states for an indefinite period of time. And lockdown would be probably fatal for the country at this juncture.
So what should be the kind of policy that government follows at a time where people frankly are very, very tired and exhausted with the COVID norms and don't seem to be following even the basics? And like you rightly said, lockdown perhaps is not where any of us want to go. So what should be the policy then for any state to follow?
The policy is fairly simple, but the question is how effective can they implement it? It's COVID appropriate behavior. The government should clamp down on people walking around without masks, with people who do not maintain a distance, and also should encourage hand washing and prevention of spitting, so on and so forth. But most importantly, we are still seeing large gatherings at various different places and people not wearing masks and crowding, and this can be prevented by the government. They say it's something like a mini Section 144 or something. Don't allow people to gather around. We have hundreds of thousands of people sometimes in rallies, public functions, weddings, thousands of people getting together without a mask. And this is where the spread is coming from. If you look at what's happened in Bangalore, there were a few visitors from Kerala and they partied, about 400 people of them partied in one of the apartment complexes in a closed room, and 100 plus of them got infected. And this is what we need to prevent. And we need to speed up vaccination. If we take these two measures, I'm sure we can prevent the resurgence of COVID. And that only the government can do by implementing the measures very, very strictly, fine them, whatever you want to do. But please do not allow people to travel unnecessarily, mix unnecessarily, and ban large crowds.
To your mind, Dr. Bilal, are there other things that we must look at, study and follow up as to why this rise is taking place now? Most of these restrictions were lifted up a few months ago, but we didn't see the impact even in the month of January as we are, and that also limited in a few parts of our country.
No, that's a very pertinent question. I think one is, of course, there have been many mutations of the virus, and we have a large number of people who have had asymptomatic COVID infections who might not have developed enough immunity. So a mutant virus, a large number of people who do not have immunity, even though they might have had COVID, and careless behavior, irresponsible behavior by the public is something that has contributed to this illness. And that is what we need to prevent. We just cannot let our guard down yet. I've been speaking to many experts from various different parts of the country and abroad, and they believe that COVID is here with us for the next 2 or 3 years. So we just cannot let our guard down, even if the vaccination comes, but vaccination will be some kind of a solace for us.
Let's talk about vaccination then, because you raised it, and I was just speaking to an ex-medical expert from Kerala, and Kerala of course has taken a very clear stand where they've demanded to the central government to speed up on the vaccination. From your understanding, even in the state of Karnataka, infrastructure wise, are we ready to take it to the next level where we open it up to at least those above the age of 50, infrastructurally and technologically speaking?
Fortunately for us, Karnataka has a very robust healthcare system, both in the government and in the private sector. And we have a large number of medical colleges, both private and government in Karnataka. So it will be a lot easier for us to sort of boost our vaccination drive. But the only thing is that it has to be a partnership between the government and the private. And if the government allows the private sector to join them and start the vaccination program, I'm sure we can speed up the vaccination substantially. And certainly the high-risk groups like the people above 50 or people with comorbidity can be easily given the vaccination in a finite period of time.
All right, Dr. Bilal, thank you so much for joining us, and let us hope that we're able to speed up on the vaccination at a faster pace than the pace of COVID spreading again, or the resurgence that we're looking at again. That's as far as Karnataka is concerned. Karnataka by itself isn't a big problem yet, but because they are neighbors with states like Kerala and Maharashtra, from where a lot of people do constantly travel to Karnataka, it is very important that even that state really puts up its barriers, and Karnataka has actually moved very quickly to bring in these travel restrictions for travelers from Kerala as well as Maharashtra. Now, let's move on to the other state. And now I'm going to put the spotlight moving from Karnataka to Madhya Pradesh. Now, in Madhya Pradesh, as was in the first round, it's a few regions and cities that have actually become a problem point and a concern right now. There's been a surge of about 40% of cases in Madhya Pradesh. In fact, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan also held a meeting with the Bhopal's Crisis Management Committee this afternoon, where he said that, it's extremely important to see why cases are increasing in cities like Indore and Bhopal, and there should be these meetings that must be held now across districts. He's also urged citizens to follow all safety measures. The government has already decided that they're going to ban protests and public gatherings until further orders. Remember, in the last few months, almost all states have now allowed you to do large-scale gatherings, public events. They've opened up restaurants, theatres, wedding halls and all of that. And now cases are beginning to go up again. In Madhya Pradesh, even in the first round, it was actually Bhopal and Indore which were the two key areas, perhaps because they're the bigger cities where there was a lot of surveillance and testing going on, but they did show a high number of cases constantly, and that has become the problem again. Dr. Jyoti Bindal, former Dean and CEO of MGM Medical College in Indore, a member of the COVID Technical Advisory Committee, joins us this evening. Dr. Jindal, thank you for joining us. If you can help us understand the scenario in Madhya Pradesh today and what has changed in the last 1 month.
Let me begin by saying that Corona has never gone away. It is very much there to stay. So the only solution is to make sure that the Corona safety precautions are taken by everybody. I think somewhere along the line, we have become little complacent, overconfident, and that is what has brought the Corona numbers to go again up. The vaccination drive in Madhya Pradesh has been very, very efficient, but unfortunately, as you must have known, the vaccination figures never reached above 80%. People did not reach the vaccination centers. There is so much myth. The vaccine may cause some kind of complication. Even the healthcare workers number never went to 100%. So I think that at some point we need to make sure that the safety measures are taken. And as you rightly said a little while ago, our Chief Minister, Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, has been very, very vigilant. From day one, he has been having these meetings. Every city has got the instructions to have crisis management committee meetings and make sure that any public gathering is avoided. So I think the key to stopping this is safety measures, mask and distance.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the only way until we've managed to vaccinate a large number of people. What's also interesting, Dr. Bindal, is that the concerned cities right now are again, cities like Indore or Bhopal, which is what we saw in the first phase as well. These were the two cities that were reporting a higher number of cases for the state of Madhya Pradesh. Now, why is that? Is it because there is larger testing and surveillance here, or the density is higher? Why are these two cities unique?
I think whenever there's a transmission chain, it does take a little while. After the lockdown was lifted, people were still very careful. But now with all the public places being open, be it school, college, be it hotels, be it public places, conferences, gatherings, marriages, public meetings, everything is open, and you can very clearly see lots of people not wearing masks. Lots of people just mingling with each other. Rubbing shoulder to shoulder is the word I would use. Especially in eating places. Indore is famous for its crowded eating places.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you. So, the famous night market and the street food market, is that thriving even in these times?
Well, the night food market has been amazingly managed for Corona times. I think our Indore administration, especially our collector and commissioner, have been very, very vigilant. The shops are being opened, but with a distance monitoring, and there is a tremendous monitoring, both by commissioner, by collector, and municipal commissioner. They have been very vigilant. So Indore, that as always, it gets that Safai Mein Pratham tag. And we are also doing amazing work for Corona distancing. But once again, I would say that public needs to monitor itself. The transmission chain has to be broken. This surge, I would not use the word spike yet. I would say this surge in numbers is definitely because of the public not taking enough precautions, people not coming forward for their vaccinations, which they must not lose this chance. And yes, I agree that the private sector must be involved in vaccination. When you say that there are private hospitals which are also doing the vaccination, please note that these private setups are only the facilities. The vaccination is still being done only by government CMHO team. So when we talk of private sectors being given the chance, they should be given vaccines, they should be accountable, and they should be allowed to start vaccinating people. That would bring our number of vaccinations up.
Well, in fact, Dr. Bindal, I was going to ask you, and is that what, you as an expert and part of the panels would advise the government? Because in all of my conversations from various parts of the country, all experts seem to be suggesting that we are ready to increase our vaccination. We have the centers, we have the staff, but obviously because right now there is a cap on who can get the dose, we are not able to vaccinate more people.
So yes, 100%. We would be, the technical advisory committee would be putting in their views, but also through your media, through your medium, I would like to request the public to come forward for vaccination. That is something, because it's really disturbing to see even that the healthcare workers have not come in 100% numbers. So that's something we need to take care of.
All right, Dr. Jyoti Bindal, appreciate you joining us, with all of the insights and your views on what must be done and what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us here on this special broadcast. So there you go. Even in Madhya Pradesh, for cities like Bhopal and Indore, there is a concern. It's in the spotlight. Remember, the center is actually sending special teams and is in constant conversation with states like Maharashtra, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab as well. There are also states like Chhattisgarh and Jammu and Kashmir which are beginning to show some rise in cases. So all of that is on center's radar. Some of the teams have also gone to these states and they will be giving a detailed briefing to the Central Health Secretary as to what's going on. But I think while they find that out and while we discuss on what stricter steps have to be constantly, everybody has to be reminded to wear a mask and maintain social distancing, to not attend large-scale gatherings. The government really needs to move quickly on vaccination. And the point of all of this conversation is also to validate that argument that is being made by literally every single expert in our country today, that it is time we open it up to the next stage, that we are ready. We are ready to vaccinate more people. Now, unless there are concerns about the current system, unless we say that the CoWIN app is not ready to take on more loads, unless we say that we aren't too sure about the efficacy of Covaxin and we want to wait for that, unless we say that we don't want to follow up on a bigger agreement with the Serum Institute and pay them more money for these doses, or we aren't too sure of what our policy is going to be on pricing. If that is the case, the government needs to tell us. But every single day that passes by, where we don't take a decision and don't give a clarity on why vaccination is not being stepped up, there are bigger concerns and question marks being raised as to why that's happening. Today, in the news conference that was held by the Central Health Ministry, they gave us data to show how a large chunk of our country and maximum number of states have done well above 70% of their vaccination targets. Then what are we waiting for? Why don't we take it to the next level? Very quickly, let's also tell you about the state of Punjab, where also the cases have begun to rise. Now, I must say that the numbers from states like Punjab and Madhya Pradesh are nowhere comparable to what may be happening in Maharashtra. Nevertheless, for those states, it is a concern, and the rise is a concern. Chief Minister himself has announced curbs in the state to contain the spread. These curbs are on outdoor and indoor gatherings from 1st of March. The testing is now being ramped up in the state. There are night curfews which are going to be in special hotspots if needed. That's the message that has gone in from the Chief Minister himself. Let's in fact go across to Dr. Talwar, Chairman Cardiac Sciences for PSRI Hospital, and he's an advisor on the health and medication education for Government of Punjab, joining us. Dr. Talwar, what should we be looking at in terms of a policy to contain the spread so we don't have the next big wave?
First, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think you have rightly mentioned that though there is a surge in Punjab, the numbers are not that large number. I think we had gone to around 200 or so, but for the last 10 days, our number has gone to around nearly 400. And that's the concern. So we want to take immediate steps. That was the reason the Honorable CM Saab called a meeting. And so it was that we should initiate stuff to make sure that I think we do not let the surge happen. So as far as number of decisions, I think you have briefly mentioned also. I think the main concern is that because I think there has been for the last some months, like you can say November, December, January, February, we were worried about that we may get a second wave in winter. But somehow or the other, we were fortunate and whatever steps were taken. And so the surge was not there. It's only now, the last 2 weeks, and I think there are a number of reasons for it. One is that I think it's a marriage season. Number of marriages are occurring and the crowds are little larger in these gatherings. And people are not taking the precaution. I mean, people somehow or the other have forgotten that probably the COVID is not there now. So the people are not wearing masks. Those who are wearing masks, below the chin and all that. So that was one. Use of mask has been an issue. The gathering has been an issue. Sorry if so gathering has been the issue. And then, sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are. We lost you in between, but you're audible now, Dr. Talwar.
Let me just give me a second. I think I'll change my internet to something that may be better. Sorry.
We can hear you clearly now, though. Dr. Talwar is now trying to switch between the two stable connections so that he could have finished that point. But like he was pointing out, the numbers may not be comparable, but it's definitely a point of concern for the state. The government now moving to bring in more curbs and restrictions. Remember, this has also been a state that's been the epicenter of the farmers' protests, and in terms of vaccination speed, much lower than some of the other states. So that's also one thing that the Punjab government will have to look at. It's speeding up their vaccination, figuring out what's going on, and if there is too much hesitancy or a special campaign is needed. But Punjab also needs to focus on containing the spread and speeding up vaccination. I'm going to have to thank Dr. Talwar now because we're completely out of time, and thank you to all of our viewers as well for joining us on this special broadcast. Lots more on the other side on Urban Debate at 9. Stay with me.